everybody, I'm Liz from French Toast and Books, and today we have all of the books that I acquired in 2021. I've counted them. I purchased or were gifted 25 books. And we're going to talk about how terrible I am at reading books I buy, because out of the 25 books I've acquired, 4. Out of 25 books, I read 4. That's not a good streak for me. So let's dive in, shall we, to this hot mess. We'll get into the books I read first, and then talk about all the books I have not read. First, we have United by Melissa Landers. This is a sci-fi romance with a little bit of political intrigue in it as well. And it's the last book in a trilogy. I purchased this book because I wanted the complete series on my shelves. It's a human girl and an alien boy. It's an exchange program where the aliens try to intermingle and assimilate with humans, and all sorts of stuff happens. Then I also purchased The Death Code by Lindsay Cummings. This is her duology from many years ago, back when I started BookTube, was when everyone was crazy about the murder complex, and I needed to get my hands on the second last book of the duology. It's like dystopian, back when dystopian was very, very popular. And I remember loving this book. I binge read it, probably the fastest I have ever read a book ever. And so I wanted to finish my set. So obviously those books I've read years ago, and I just was completing my series. Then we have a actual 2021 release, If I Tell You the Truth by Jasmine Carr. This released January or February, so really early on in the year. I bought it and devoured it very quickly. It's a very sad story. It's told in prose. It's mixed media. There's some pictures along with poetry and also traditional storytelling. I loved it so much. It takes place with a woman who immigrates to Canada to go to college. She's pregnant. The pregnancy is a result of a rape, and she defaults in her immigration status for her student visa because she's unable to complete school due to her circumstance, and she flees and becomes undocumented in Canada. And then it goes into her child's high school life, learning the history of how she came to be. So a lot is happening in the story, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then we have the book. I started it at the end of 2021. I didn't finish it until the beginning of 2022. This is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. This was released in also January or February, so at the beginning of 2021. It's a sci-fi novella with the main character getting the nicknamed term of Death's adopted daughter, and she has a fox companion. It was fantastic. I'm so glad I bought this book, and I really want to dive into Nnedi Okorafor's other works. So there we go, 4 books that I've read. Such a great track record. But let's just dive into the other books I acquired. First, we have The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This follows a family within the Lakota tribe. The father has Alzheimer's and is dealing with the kind of degeneration of that with his brain. There's an adoptive son and some mystery between a death of also a son, and so there's a lot of little family turmoil, inner workings, mixed with a lot of the heritage and culture of the Lakota tribe. Then we have Clap When You Land by Elizabeth A. Savato. I love all of Elizabeth A. Savato's works that I've read so far. I've read With the Fire and High and Poet X. I loved it so much, like 5 out of 5 stars, and this needs to be read. This, I believe, was released in 2020. Then we have House of Holo by Crystal Sutherland. I know it's like a mystery, possibly gothic horror. I can't remember. I just know that there's sisters and a lot of mystery with this house. And I was really excited about it. I heard some mixed reviews since its release. It is a 2021 release. Next we have Yesterday is History by Kosako Jackson. This one is another 2021 release. It has a boy who ends up getting I believe it was a liver transplant, and the person who had the liver before him was a time traveler, and now the main character can time travel because of this liver. And so he gets thrown into the past and ends up like falling for somebody in the past, and then he shoots back into the present, and the family of the deceased from the liver transplant now has to find him and basically teach him to control his time travel jumping before he, like, you know, creates a huge butterfly effect or gets stranded or whatever happens. And I really wish that I wasn't so slumpy and reading was not so difficult for me last year, because so many books are just so good. Next up, we have The Forever Sea by Joshua Philip Johnson. I have not heard a lot of this book. It was not a huge, crazy, like, people wants to read this release for last year. A lot of it is kind of sparked by, like, Atlantis, the Lost Empire, and Treasure Planet. I remember main character, she is basically searching, I believe, for her mother, and they have, like, ships that are actually, like, flying in the air, kind of like Treasure Planet. Then we have Bride of the Sea by Amman Catan. I remember this is a very, like, kind of tragic, sad story. Newlywed university students Munir and Seda are expecting their first child, and he is harboring a secret. The word divorce is whispering in his ear. Soon their marriage will end, and Munir will return to Saudi Arabia, while Sadia remains in Cleveland with their daughter Hanadi. Consumed by a growing fear of losing her daughter, Sadia disappears with the little girl, leaving Munir to desperately search for his daughter for years. The repercussions of the abduction ripple outward, not only changing the lives of Hanadi and her parents, but also their interwoven family and friends, those who must choose sides and hide their own deeply guarded secrets. When Hanadi comes of age and finds herself at the center of this conflict, torn between the worlds she grew up in and a family across the ocean, how can she exist between parents, between countries? Then we have Luster, a novel by Raven Lalani. This book has been raved about by so many people in the book community that I follow, primarily Jessie from A Bow Tie Books, and also Marinas by My Name is Marinas, and I really want to read this. It's a adult love story. I believe it's polyamory and all sorts of other stuff going on that I just need to get into. Then we have The Lost Manuscript by Kathy Bonadine. This is another 2021 release that sounds just so good. It's about a woman who goes to a motel and finds a manuscript, reads it, it's unfinished, so she tries to find the author of this manuscript. Then we have We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal. This is the second book in the We Hunt the Flames series. I'm pretty sure it's also called something else, but I can't remember what the actual series is called. I enjoyed We Hunt the Flame. I had some issues with it, particularly the hate to love relationship, because it was not hate to love. It was way more insta-lovey than that. But I did enjoy the story enough to want to read the sequel, and I didn't. It's a monster of a book, but hopefully I can get into it. Then we have The Conductors by Nicole Glover. This is a kind of magic society story, but it also takes place during the Underground Railroad. These conductors realize that Black people are going missing, but the police are basically not even caring, and so it's this community of people who are trying to solve the murders. Next, we have Nyxia Uprising by Scott Rankin. This is, I believe, the last book in his Nyxia series. I really enjoyed the other 2 books in the series. I really want to get to its conclusion. I had anticipated and planned on reading this book last year. I think I attempted to once, but I really didn't get more than a page into it, and so it didn't happen. Then we have Fable by Adrienne Young. I really enjoyed Adrienne Young's other Norse Viking story called In the Sky of the Deep. I read it at the beginning of the year before last year, and like I said, I loved it so much that I really want to dive into this. I have heard a few mixed reviews on this series as a whole, as I believe it concluded last year. I still want to dive in and get my own idea, my thoughts and feelings on the story itself, especially because I loved In the Sky of the Deep so much. Next we have 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. Obviously I spent extra big bucks money to get this shipped via Waterstones from the UK, because it's the UK cover, to the US, because I love this cover so much. I think it's stunning, and I felt like I needed to splurge. I believe it was for my birthday. I'm just really excited to dive into this book. It has a world where magic is forbidden. Main character has magic, and evil sorceress curses her and her family. So her family turns into, I believe it was cranes, and she has to go and break the spell, the curse anyway, and I want to read it. I've heard it's beautiful and I can't wait. And then we have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I've heard fantastic, phenomenal things about this story and really all of Aiden Thomas's works. And so I wanted to dive into basically a book circle favorite first before I dive into his other works. And I can't wait. The next 2 books were gifted to me by the fantastic Amanda. I love her so much. She doesn't really post on YouTube anymore, but she's still very active on her Discord and her readathons and Twitter. She's trying to get back into Instagram. I love her to death, and so I'm so excited that she gifted me these books. She got me Ray Bear by Jordan Ifuko, and I've heard phenomenal reviews and ravings about this story, and I just need to dive in and get into this gritty, like, fantasy world. And then she also gifted me this 2021 release, A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. This is going to be a queer story. It's fantasy. It's very, like, epic, where 4 people band together and come together from different stretches of this world to stop the basically destruction of the Fae and the human world. Last 5 stories I received all of them via Christmas, and let's just dive right in. First, we have War's Ending by A.J. Park. This is actually my cousin's wife. I did not know she was an author of fantasy stories, and so my mom got this for me for Christmas. This book is pretty typical fantasy. Our main character, we have a king's niece who is starting to explore the kingdom's colonies with her uncle, with the king, but she's badly injured and abducted by a masked horseman. Then we have What We Devour by Lindsay Miller. I hear this is a pretty dark story, but it's also pretty beloved in a lot of book circles. Then we have Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I knew it was a thick book, but I didn't realize how thick it was until I actually had it in my hands. I am so excited for the story. I know that there's a lot of buzz with J. Kristoff. Some of his antics, especially on like Twitter and Instagram, which is very disheartening because I met him in real life and he was fantastic to be around and like talk to and everything like that. And so I'm just going to let that be. I'm going to try his stories. I did read Nevernight last year, and I did read his co-authorship, the Illuminae series, the Illuminae File series, and also I read the first book in the Aurora cycle, which is the Aurora Rising, that he co-wrote with Amy Kaufman, and I did enjoy those. I did enjoy Nevernight, with a few exceptions. And so I do want to keep reading his works. I read a little bit of Lifelike last year. Obviously, I was very excited for this book. I've been excited for this book for years because the release date kept getting pushed back, and I really want to read it. Next we have The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek, about Norse mythology. It dives into Loki's mistress, I believe, who has children via Loki, and all sorts of other stuff happen. Where I think she gets one of the other Norse gods mad at her. I don't exactly remember the premise, but I remember really being excited when I read about it, and I just take all these books, all these words, and put them in my brain without me having to sit there and read. Because that's my problem. I cannot just sit and read. We have my last book that I acquired in 2021, which was Victoria Schwab's Bridge of Souls, the third and I believe final book in her Cassidy Blake series. It is a middle grade ghost story of our main character Cassidy Blake can see ghosts, and it gets her into a lot of trouble, and her best friend is a ghost. And there's the big guilt trip of video. Let me know down below what book you received or hauled, basically. What book you hauled in 2021. Do a couple. One you liked, one you didn't like, one you regrettably did not end up reading. Let me know down in the comments below. Celebrate, commiserate, what have you in the comments down below. Let me know about all those book hauls of 2021. And until next time, I love you guys. Bye!